Mike Violet back here on the Score with more of our pregame show as we get to playoff football. CONY Rams Mount Blue Cougars teeing it up tonight at Fuller Field in Augusta. Joining us now, CONY head coach Lippert. Coach, first of all, welcome to our pregame show. Secondly, congratulations on a nice wrap-up to your season.
Thank you. Yeah, to end the season with 4 wins was nice, and hopefully we can continue that into the playoffs here tonight and see where we come out. But I have a request. Can the picture they're probably showing right now, do you have any that make me look a little slimmer? My face looks a little round. You can't work. Maybe you have filters there or something. Do the best you can to help me out.
Our digital director, Shawn Packard, has a magic wand, so okay, I'm sure he can work on photoshopping that as we do this year, and it runs. So, hey, I do the same thing, believe me, Coach. So you started out losing 3 of 4, and things didn't look good, especially when in that 3 of 4 loss streak, you got the daylights beat out of you physically in Oakland against Messalonsky, and then you lost big time to Lawrence, that is, they put the hammer down on you, and all of a sudden, out of the ashes of that, you win 4 in a row. What started to go right in week number 5?
I think we really started to get some of the sophomores that were thrust into those positions in the second half against Meso, and then, of course, against a pretty physical Lawrence team. They started to find their bearings a little bit. It takes time. they weren't really expecting to play a lot of varsity minutes, and then, boom, you're kind of in there under the lights on Friday. So they've adjusted pretty well to playing on the varsity games, and that's helped us out defensively. Offensively, we've committed a little bit more to the pass game. We're a little bit more conservative in the first half of the year. We've opened it up to a larger extent here in the second half to feature Parker Moore and throwing the football around pretty good. So I think those two things probably account for most of the difference. And I think our kids have just showed some resiliency, and quite frankly, they're used to winning games. We've been pretty good here for a while. Been above 500, near the top of the PTC rankings. So to be 1-3, I think they were kind of shell shocked, and they could have gone one of 2 ways. And thankfully, they went the way that was getting more committed and trying to figure out how to get into the winning column more often.
The Parker show, as we call it, has been fascinating to watch unfold here this year. Parker Sargent last year ended up getting hurt, back healthy this year, and Parker Moore, your young quarterback who came into the season having played hardly any quarterback, looks like a veteran now. Give us a sense of how that evolvement for both of those kids has happened.
Sure. They both got hurt last year.
Yeah.
Parker Sargent in week 2, and then Parker Moore in the week 1 JV game. So they really didn't contribute at all for our team last year, which was unfortunate because we knew they had this potential in them. And they've just kind of hit a stride here. They've played a lot of sports together, mainly basketball. They have a good friendship, friendship there. And Parker Sargent has this second gear, fifth gear, whatever you want to call it, that other people just really can't stay with.
No.
And it was true last year, too, against Levitt in the preseason. They had some pretty good corners, and he'd kind of tempo his routes and then accelerate, and all of a sudden he's by you. And, this year, Parker Moran's been able to put it on him a couple times. Gardner last week committed, at times, almost 2.5 defensive backs to cover Parker Sargent, and he got behind him twice for 2 big scores, and they did a better job in the second half of negating that. But a lot of teams have made the cognizant decision we got to slow down Sargent, and sometimes he's still gotten loose a few times.
That extra gear, overdrive, whatever you want to call it, is something else to behold, because once he gets a step on you, he is gone. But I'll tell you, those 2 throws for the 2 deep ball touchdowns last Friday night against Gardner, Morin couldn't have walked down the field and placed the ball in his hands any better.
Yeah, it's really funny. I joke with Mitchell Karen, who played for us in 2014. There was a DN on the state championship team in 13. He's kind of been our quarterback coach for the year. And if you watch Parker in practice, or better yet, if you watch him in warm-ups, he does not look like he throws the deep ball well. And he's throwing some curveballs, and they're going. And for some reason, when the lights turn on, he's really, really accurate on the deep ball. And especially here in the second half of the season, if Sargent's had a step, he's really put it on him, and hopefully that trend can continue. But they're really, I've had people that aren't big football fans that are there for the CONY Gardner game stop me in the hallway and say, "Oh my goodness, when he throws that deep pass and it's right on Parker Sargent's hands, that's a beautiful thing to watch." I said, "Yeah, no kidding. You don't get that very often," and thankfully we have those 2 for right now.
Well, save it for the game, that's for sure. So The Mount Blue Cougars, your opponent tonight, have had a tough year. They've lost every game they played, but it's kind of deceptive. There's been some games there that have been close, including the game they played with you where they took you to overtime and lost 27-26. So they come in certainly playing with house money, Coach Lippert. Nobody expects them to win, yet they played you as close as any team that they played all year.
Yeah, they played the second half of the year. They played really well. They played Falmouth tough, and Falmouth, I think most people recognize as one of the more talented teams in the league, and they kind of pieced it together better at the end of the year. They played Meso tough last week.
Did.
It was 21-12 in the fourth quarter. So we had all we could handle up there. We were actually kind of lucky to force it to overtime. Parker Sargent caught a pass from Parker Moore, and his time expired basically to send it to overtime, and then we were able to win. So they've played much better than an 0-8 record reflects, and they've got some young talent. They've tried a new quarterback, so they've got a sophomore quarterback playing more minutes, and they're big. They're huge up front. They're as big as anybody in the league. So I know the record says 0-8, but they are more than capable of beating us tonight. They've got some talented players. They're Dane Cousineau is a linebacker, running back that's really, really talented. The Galkowski kid. So they have some weapons, and they're playing with house money, as you said. So you expect to see the fake punts and the trick plays because they really have nothing to lose. And as a coach, you try to kind of anticipate that and prepare for it as best you can. But they're going to do it to pull out all the stops and see if they can pull off an upset.
Yeah, I mean, nothing to lose. What do they do offensively? Are they spread out much like you guys are?
Yeah, they're more like a 2 tight end set, but they can have 2 running backs and 2 tight ends, or 2 tight ends and 3 receivers. So they're quite multiple offensively. They've got some big personnel. They got a couple big tight ends, and they've thrown the ball pretty well. And the Cousineau kid, 22, is their top running back, but maybe also their top receiver. He's a really versatile player for them. So they mix it up. They run the quarterback a little bit, which causes them headaches for coordinators to try to figure out how do you drop and cover the pass, but also have an eye on him. So they mix up what they do offensively pretty well.
Class B North is, I think, wide open. Lawrence came on at the end and really played well down the stretch. They beat Messalonskee, of course. Messalonskee bounced back last week, but still, even though those 2 teams got the bye, I'm looking at what I think are 4 teams that could contend for this regional championship. What are your thoughts on who can contend for it?
Yeah, I think certainly Lawrence has proven to be the 1 seed, and they've earned that for sure. But as you said, I think depending on how everything shakes out, if whoever wins our game is going to Messalonskee next week, and I'd like to think if we get that chance, maybe we play a little bit better with some guys more acclimated to the starting role. They've got some explosive offense headlined by Tatum Ducetto, so that you have your hands full. And Lawrence, you can't really pick out. We're talking about who the player of the year is in the conference, and Lawrence is at the top of the league, but there's not one guy where you say, boy, it's definitely this kid or it's definitely Michael Hanley. They really are versatile offensively, which makes it really, really tough to defend. They've gotten more physical as the year has progressed, and I think Lawrence is probably the favorite. Obviously, the 1 seed would kind of allude to that, but they also beat us pretty handily and beat Meso pretty handily. So everyone's chasing Lawrence, but I think in the right circumstances, a couple of us could knock them off if we're getting the opportunity.
Do you still worship Jameis Winston?
Not really. Yeah, he doesn't play, so I turn on the Saints game and see if he can get on the field a little bit, and he doesn't play very much. So I have to follow other Florida State Seminoles, Asante Samuel Jr. and Derwin James and Dalvin Cook. Some other guys actually play on Sundays. So, no, Jameis, I like him. He's obviously won a national championship for my Florida State Seminoles, but hard to cheer for him when he's holding a clipboard.
Yeah, this is very true. He's got a baseball hat and a clipboard on. Coach B.L. Lippert of the CONY Rams, thanks for being with us on the pregame show tonight. Best of luck against the Mount Blue Cougars.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Mike.